Welcome to another Marketer's Edge interview. My name's Mark Snyder. I'm founder and CEO of RSW Agency Search. We're a no-cost way for marketers to find best-in-class agencies of any type or size. You can learn more about us at rswas.com. Today we're talking with Milena Lozina, the Assistant Director of Graduate Program Marketing for 14 different graduate programs, including psychology, business, law, STEM, and healthcare, just to name a few. Mila, thanks so much for joining us today. How have you been?
Great, wonderful. I'm excited to be here with you, Mark, and contribute to the knowledge of your audience. And
That's great. Yep, was looking forward to the interview. We had a good conversation a month or so ago, and so was really looking forward to today's conversation. So I've got a small handful of questions for you, but before we do that, can you just tell me a little bit about sort of the universities that you're supporting? Tell us a little bit about your role and how you interface and support these different graduate programs at these different universities.
yeah, sure, I would love to. My role is Assistant Director of Graduate Program Marketing at Yeshiva University in New York City. Yeshiva University is kind of this very unique institution in that on undergraduate level, which I don't currently support much, we are faith-based institution, kind of like a Catholic college, but based in the Jewish faith. There's some Jewish curriculum, Jewish classes as part of the curriculum. So it appeals to more the people with religious background. On graduate level, the university is extremely diverse, which is quite extraordinary. Other than two graduate schools that are based on Jewish studies and Jewish education, we have a lot of brands that are marketed separately on their own. Like, for example, the Wurzweiler School of Social Work is one of the top schools in New York City for social work. It has its own name. Oh my God. I'm sorry.
No problem.
The Wurzweiler School of Social Work is one of the top social work schools in New York City. It has its own name. Right, so the Fairclough Graduate School of Psychology is pretty well known in the field. They're mostly known for their PhDs, but they also have and PsyDs, but they also have a few master degrees. The Cardozo School of Law and the Sisson School of Business I support occasionally whenever there is a need. And there's the CAT School of Science and Health. This is the school where I also teach. I teach UX and web design at the Masters in Marketing. Side note on that, I'm super excited to be one of the first professors integrating AI in our coursework.
Nice.
And another interesting, it's a center, it's not a school, but the Fish Center for Holocaust and Genocide Studies. It's fairly new. And did you know that actually credits in Holocaust and Genocide Studies is actually required for many teachers in many states across the United States. So we have extremely diverse population there, but also we have a lot of international students.
Got
So
it.
it's been really unique experience working at Yeshiva University, and it definitely broadened my perspective about the institution. And I'm also very privileged to be able to spread that knowledge, that word, so other people are seeing us as this very unconventional institution.
How are all the universities tied together, and how is it that you are supporting marketing efforts of these individual universities? Are they
Mhm.
part of a network, or do they contract out with you specifically? How does
Mhm.
that work?
So there are 8 graduate schools under Yeshiva University. So kind of like NYU, you have Tandem, you have the Stern School of Business. It's kind of similar with under Yeshiva University. the individual schools are um, kind of branded separately, and
Makes
in the field they have named for themselves. So where I graduated from NYU, so the School of Professional Studies was marketed as NYU. Now at Yeshiva University, instead of marketing um, Yeshiva University social work, I market Wurzweiler School of Social Work.
right.
And that's the name that resonates with the field of social work. It's a little different than anywhere else I've worked.
It's got to keep you busy and it's got to be interesting because there's certainly a lot of variety in the kinds of, graduate programs that you're representing.
For sure, it's been a tremendous learning curve for me. Also because I was supporting undergraduate programs predominantly in the past before I joined YU, but it's great. I think that we have, instead of working with one brand, I'm working with 8 different brands.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. That's exciting. I noticed that you bring a great deal of marketing agency and client side marketing into this job. I'm curious, how would you say that's benefited you in this current role?
Um, yeah, I guess you can say I had a little bit of FOMO, fear of missing out
Nice.
in my career. I technically have 2 careers. I was a graphic and web designer for many years, and then I switched to marketing after I got my master's. So half my life I was in design, and the other half I've been in marketing. Um, I was counting one day the different industries I've worked in, and I think it was like 7. In addition to education, I worked for many years for a corporation that was one of the largest on the Northeast for fitness at one point. In the conference business, I worked for pharma, finance, and marketing products. So I guess you can say I worked a little bit with pharma and finance. And I worked for a real estate company, more of a contracting role for a period of time, and also construction and development.
Okay.
So, as I said, I worked before in undergrad and now in grad. So, I feel like it really enriched my perspective about what marketing means, and it's very beneficial at work when we're discussing different directions to go about to be able to bring in that experience. But in class, when I'm teaching, it's a tremendous help because a lot of what we do is role playing. So, for example, we'll talk about how is UX design different in a bank, in a large financial institution, versus an online clothing, apparel retailer, right? We'll have
Right.
a very different considerations. So, I feel pretty fortunate to be able to bring in that different, diverse experience and really impact the students.
Back on your various experience, was there one or two that you think really made a difference in terms of preparing you for the job that you're in right now?
I feel like where it benefited me the most is just being open to trying things one way or another. In higher ed, we're very particular with what we need. Like we have a very unique product. I've heard our product being compared to a luxury product, but it's not just the financial investment, right? It's also the time. So it's very unique in a way. So it allows me to bring in that unique perspective and sometimes question whether the way we do things are is the right way or is there a better way, and sometimes to appreciate the unique position that we're in as marketers for higher ed.
Got it. Got it. That's great. What would you consider to be the one or two things that are most challenging about working in the capacity that you do, and how do you typically overcome some of those challenges?
I think the best and the worst is having so many different brands. Now,
Okay.
I, I have to say, I love my job. I love what I do, and I love diversity. and variety, and also the leadership opportunities we have in higher ed. So it works for me, but it also means that on a given day, I could be stretched from analyzing data, working with spreadsheets, creating formulas and pivot tables and whatever would have you. I could be writing copy for an ad. I could be updating designs, or and once or twice a year we do budgets. So working on budgets, like a lot of the templates I brought into our team, I took from my education and from other practices where this was done really well. Oh, and from time to time, I would edit code on the website. Sometimes it seems like the code editor is a little easier. It's kind of crazy how this my current role is really tapping into just about everything I've ever done.
Yeah, no kidding. Do you get involved in like strategy setting or positioning with these different graduate programs, or do they have their own internal team that sort of manages a lot of that activity?
No, this is us. We're
Hmm.
they have organic social media people
Okay,
just because we're not in the classroom and a lot of us are remote. But yeah,
right.
for the most part, I feel very confident in how much I know about each school and each major, so I can bring
Yeah,
in that expertise and embed it in our overall strategy.
got
But
it,
yeah,
got
we're
it.
pretty much treating every school a little differently.
You have sort of, I'm curious, like ongoing meetings with these schools to talk about the state of marketing for each of them, and
Absolutely, yes.
yeah, yeah,
So
okay,
it's an open conversation. And also
yeah,
the industries change. So let's say education may be taking a different shift now than it did in previous years. So it kind of goes both ways for sure.
yeah, got it. I'm curious, how many people do you have on your team?
So it's an interesting setup. We are about 5 people who are on staff, and we
Okay,
have a few partners who are, you can say, they're embedded in our everyday work. So
okay,
they're,
like agency partners.
yes,
Okay,
agency and independent contractors.
got it, got it. Okay, so any advice you'd give to a marketer working in the EDU space that's looking to improve their university's performance, just sort of based on your own successes that you've been able to achieve?
Yeah, for sure. I would say the number one advice I would give would be to learn as much as you can about your marketing. We've I don't think we've had a single partner, a single agency that has been able to deliver on our expectations until we actually all stepped up and got trained. Actually, give full credit to the senior director, Robert Kadar, who brought in a lot of great marketing strategy. But also, we had once a week, we still do, once a week, we have a training hour where everybody on the team is learning something outside of their comfort zone. So our company partners are great partners when we guide them to with a sound direction and have clear expectations. But without us being experts in the field, it was kind of hard to do.
Right,
So
right. Yeah,
yeah, and
that's
and
great.
and, and to be honest, we found that at this level of expertise that we have internally, it's almost easier to do it ourselves to some degree and then rely on support for kind of once the strategy is set, then we can have support to day in and day out monitor the campaigns and the ad sets.
So I'm curious, what kind of things do your agency partners do for you most often?
Um, kind of, to be honest, the biggest value has been bringing that expertise, like industry trends, teaching us about what other companies are doing, how the landscape is shifting. Technology is always evolving, and I think that is one of our biggest challenges, marketers staying on top of what's going on with cookieless tracking, and having the right technology embedded, having AI embedded in our all of our tools. I think that would be also one of my biggest advice, to tap into AI, but not in a way that it replaces skills, but more that
Hmm.
it increases our output so we can do more and faster.
Got
And
it.
with that big exclamation point about beware of legal FERPA rules, and even one of the tools I'm using is subscription based, so it's paid, and all of the privacy is turned off. But even so, I still wouldn't run a list of alumni through the AI to do any kind of work. That's just I don't think I'm not comfortable doing that, even with the privacy laws.
Right.
But yeah,
Right.
it's been my experience that the most successful individuals are people who are willing to learn and end up a little bit of a like jack of all trades. But it really works for us.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, thinking about the EDU space, specifically graduate programs, what are you seeing in the industry? As you look forward over the next 3, 5 years, what do you think the graduate program industry, so to speak, will look like? How's it? Do you think it'll be different than it is today?
It's an interesting question, and I'm not sure anybody could really know. But from webinars and conferences that I've attended, it seems like the AI adoption is definitely on the rise. I saw somewhere a statistic that about 10% of universities have adopted or are in the process of adopting AI, which is huge. I mean, I'm glad that we are, but at the same time, there's a lot of unknowns. Like I know one university was setting up AI committee like across the board. So that I think that is one of the biggest changes coming to us, and not just for marketing, but also for providing education. And a lot of the marketing tools we have are now also embracing AI. For example, the CRM I use has AI integrated as part of it.
Sure,
Um,
that's great.
so the marketing technology is a big challenge for us. Oh, another trend I've been noticing is other institutions are pulling their marketing in-house. So
Okay.
we there is this trend of working with still having support. I mean, I don't know if it's possible to not have any support, but there's been this trend of treating agencies as more as partners and more
Hmm.
embedded in the team, in the marketing team,
Right.
as opposed to a third party. And one of the challenges for agencies that more and more institutions are overcoming is sharing that privacy, sharing contacts, having lookalike audiences, and um, just building around having prior successes.
Got it. I know I've read somewhere, and I can't tell you where, but just the overall perceived value of the investment a student needs to make in a graduate program and the ensuing sort of value that they get
Mhm.
out of that in terms of career opportunities. Are any of your universities sort of dealing with sort of the value equation and trying to figure out ways to heighten the perceived value of a particular graduate degree?
Yeah, that's very true. There's been a little bit of a hesitancy to commit with a larger number.
Okay.
I think that some of the schools at Yeshiva University are a lot more affordable. They're private. There is a lot of personal attention, but at the same time, they're not at the price tag of some of the more
Got it.
elite institutions. So that kind of works in our favor. But
Yes.
there's also a little bit of strategy to be more transparent about the cost. For example,
Right.
the CAT School of Science and Health, their STEM programs have, some of the STEM programs have flat rate tuition. Like you know exactly how much you're going to pay, whether you complete it in 1 or 2 years.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
a little bit of a shift of the model,
Yeah.
kind of coming in slowly, I would say, not fast enough.
Right.
Still a lot of hesitancy to say how much my education is going to cost, right?
Sure. Sure.
But at the same time, I'm probably not the best judge because higher ed for me was transformation. I think it changed me in every aspect of my life, like from the people I'm friends with, literally. So I'm a firm proponent of higher education and masters, completing your masters. But also, I was a career changer.
Mhm.
So in my field, it had this impact. In some fields, it may not have necessarily that impact. So it's a very individual. And even though it is still hard to be in a room with top professionals in your field, like leaving your job and going to a place where there will be somebody who is truly an industry expert that will be face to face with you, that you can ask questions directly. I mean, where are you going to get that? That's why I went to do my master's.
Well, I have just two more questions for you. We talked a little bit about this, but more specifically, just any advice you'd give to a marketer thinking about bringing a new agency on board?
Yes, this is a great question, and I would say that I'm very passionate about how we work with agencies. Like I said, I think that if an agency talks about lead generation and form filling out forms, I'm not sure they would come off as somebody who knows what they're doing in higher ed specifically, because at the end of the day we want people registered for class showing up the first day of school, right? We don't want lead submissions and leads and forms and all of that. Um, with Robert, we did a study about how many of the started registered students ever filled out a form. Do you want to guess what percentage that was?
I have no idea.
About 10%.
Wow.
So
Wow.
90% of the students went directly to application.
Measuring form filling out is not a good metric.
And the other, where I've seen agencies be very successful is when they're willing to kind of partner. Like for a team like us, would have very nitty gritty questions. Like would really want to get to the core. Would want to know that the agency understands targeting and um, audience networks, is that what it's called? Yeah, so they're very familiar with exactly where our ads go. um, Early, a couple of years ago, maybe it was last year, we did, no, it was longer. We looked at conversions,
Hmm.
like ad clicks, ad to started application from the different placements. And it turned out that a lot of the advice we're getting from Meta, from Google, is actually contradictory to what works.
But
So,
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
hands-on experience somebody gets when they're actually running the ads versus working with an agency is very different. And having that experience, then we work with an agency differently, right? Because would still, like, it's crazy to think that a handful of people can do so much for so many schools, right? We need help, but it's just the way, um, the way we work is a lot more interconnected.
Yeah, great. So one last question for you. If an agency was trying to knock down your door and attempting to win business from you, what advice would you give that agency?
I would really want them to know the work, like from start to finish in its core. Have the expertise. I think a lot of the institutions and in higher ed, we think that our product is very unique, and the partners we bring in need to have higher ed experience. So that's something that we value. Um, I don't know to what degree, but I can tell you, I don't think we've ever hired an agency that didn't have any higher ed experience.
That makes sense. Yeah.
If somebody starts talking about leads and treats conversions as form submissions, that's kind of a red flag, at least in our industry, just because of, like I said, there's a lot that doesn't work. But
Yeah.
the unless somebody has gone through that path to make those mistakes, it's hard to know.
Right.
And lastly, be prepared to face a team of marketing experts. I know higher ed tends to like to promote from within and bring in people just because they have good character. So we often, it happened to me at another team I was on, like not before I joined Yeshiva University, where somebody was brought in as a director, but they didn't have the expertise or the experience. So I know sometimes the people that an agency may speak with may really don't have a lot of foundational knowledge or experience in what they're talking about, but that's not us. I'm super fortunate to be on probably the team with the most experts ever
Yeah.
in my career.
Great.
So I think my colleagues definitely talk the talk and walk the walk.
Yeah. Fantastic. It's great having that kind of talent, around you and supporting, the efforts that you guys are doing. So, listen, Mila, it's been awesome. I really appreciate you making the time. You certainly have a very unique job. I mean, even in the consumer packaged goods world, or even in the agency world, you're not working with 8 different brands all at the same time, trying to keep them all happy. And so it's certainly exciting and challenging, but it sounds like you're really enjoying it, which is great. So yeah, so appreciate it, and wish you all the best as we work to close out 2024 here.
Thank you, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to speak with you, and I hope your audience benefits from this conversation.
I'm sure they will. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.